What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gridiron Uncensored podcast. Tonight, we're hitting up the SEC Conference Championship predictions. We've already gone through the other Power Four conferences. We've mentioned the group of five and who we think is going to make it from them. So tonight, we're jumping right into it. We're getting down with the SEC. Contenders, pretenders, dark horses, typically the theme we roll with. Not necessarily when we say pretenders that it's a negative, word. Some of the teams I think it is, but you use your brain a little bit and figure out what we're saying. So let's get on contenders here, boys, and because again, this is a conference that's loaded with talent, and I feel like in the same regard as the Big 12, there's a lot of teams that can win it, and I really don't think any team is going to make it out of the SEC unscathed. I feel like everybody's going to come out with at least one. Somebody's going to have one loss. Nobody's going undefeated. So I'll just go ahead and give you mine. I've got a few. Texas, obviously, big time coming in the Big 12, coming in from the Big 12, loaded a roster, even though they've lost some running backs to injuries last week, which sucks. They're still really loaded. Ole Miss, Bama, UGA, Missouri, and Tennessee. And we'll talk about those later. Boys, what about you? Give me your contenders. I want to hear what your thoughts are.
So for me on the contender side, there were so many. I'm not listing a lot of them as a contender because I'm trying to separate the ones that I think have the better chance. So I've got Georgia and Texas as my two contenders. But like I said, there's multiple others that I think will have a shot at it, but I'll talk about them later.
Yeah. Guys, I mean, I want to say Georgia and Texas as well, but I honestly think that I'm gonna put Missouri also in that category as a contender. For some reason I feel like they're gonna piggyback over the success they had last year and just keep on humming because I just like all the returning talent that they have on that roster. And I think they will compete at the highest level at the SEC for the contender spot, at least.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got Mizzou up there, like you mentioned earlier, and I do like what they have. Brady Cook being there, Luther Burden. Obviously, they've got other pieces at wide receiver. I know they have to replenish at running back because last year they had a great back in Schrader, and but I still think they're going to be able to do it because of their schedule. And if their schedule is any harder, I'd probably maybe drop them a tier compared to the others. But just looking at that schedule, I think it's very manageable. Exactly. And, that's my big one for them. Texas and UGA, obviously, like Blake said, I mean, I feel like they're ahead above everybody when it comes to preseason hype and the roster. But a lot of these teams, they have a chance because of schedule layout. Because they've also got talent too. I know I mentioned Tennessee as one of them. Schedule is another one that feels that way to me. Blake, you disagree on old Tennessee? Why is that, or where do you have them at?
I don't necessarily disagree that they could contend. I don't like them at all or their fans, just for the record. But the quarterback play is going to be crucial for Tennessee. They do have some talent on their roster, and I think they could have a good season, but I have them more in like the dark horse top area.
Sure.
I have several teams in that area, but just specifically to them, could they? Yeah, but I think there's some games on their schedule that I just don't see them getting enough W's to win the SEC.
Yeah.
They're not going to sniff it.
There we
That's
go.
what I like to hear, buddy. Let's get it. The Michigan
Not
man.
all sunshine and rainbows over here, baby. Let's go.
Not sunshine and rainbows. I don't like to pull any punches, and I certainly ain't going to prop up a bunch of powder puffs. But but honestly, Tennessee, I mean, they're breaking in a new quarterback, and he's going to be Joe he's gonna be Milton 2.0. He's not, I just don't think he's gonna
Damn.
be much. I
So
honestly don't think he's
no
gonna be much. I
faith.
think he's gonna be I have zero expectations for him in year one.
I do think he'll be a step up from Milton,
Yeah.
but I think it's just like any player. I think it's a lot to
It's
ask a guy.
2.0. It's a little bit better than
yeah.
Milton, but not much.
It's in a damn Kirby vacuum.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that cracks me up though. I don't know. I like what he did against Iowa last year, so that's why I have some faith.
Yeah.
But no, I think their schedule is manageable to a point, but I agree they need chaos to kind of get them there. But if Nico comes out and he's freaking balling, he could go out and lead this team to plenty of wins. So to be in that conversation, we'll see.
I mean, I don't disagree that if he has a really good day, he's going to give him potentially a chance to win. However, this game is a wonderful team sport.
Yeah.
And you may have this all-star at quarterback, but the fact of the matter is that I don't have necessarily the same confidence as some other people do about the other 21 positions on the field.
Hey, fair enough. So let's we talked contenders a little bit. Ole Miss feels like an obvious after what they did in the portal. Depends a lot on Jackson Dart running game. And then can Kiffin get them over that hump? Last year was a great year for them. Wonderful. Let's do it now when it matters. Can you get to the playoffs? Bama's another team. They've completely reloaded, switched rosters around, new coaching staff, but they still have Milroe. They've got his chaos. I always say it. I just think that alone can lead them to 10, 11 wins. And the defense, I think, is going to be just fine. They've brought in a lot of good talent. Outside of that, boys, anything else for contenders? You got anything on those teams? Blake, you got anything on Bama?
Yeah, I'll just run through my dark horses real quick because that's what most of my teams are. So I've got Bama, LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, and on a limb because of some of the panty wads on YouTube, after looking into Oklahoma, if they can get some consistent offensive line play, I think Oklahoma's even a dark horse contender in here. They have a lot of talent there, and defensively, if they can mesh in the SEC against all these high-powered offenses, it's going to go back to like last year, basically in the Pac-12. It's going to be, I think, week in, week out, teams losing left and right. I agree with you. I don't think anybody's going to come out undefeated. With those 5 teams, like LSU, I think they've got a lot of talent still. Nussmeier at quarterback, I thought he played well in the bowl game. Missouri, exactly what you said. Brady Cook, he's one of my contenders for something else. Heisman. Ole Miss, loaded with talent, killed it in the transfer portal. Bama, again, lots of talent. It's just with Bama, I'll just get on my Bama horn here. Even though they brought in a new coaching staff, like I've said before, most of those players have played for new coordinators every year that they've been there because of the turnover rate at that position anyways. So how much will it really affect them? I don't know. I do know it is a whole new offensive scheme, but for the most part, I think a lot of the stuff has stayed the same as far as the way things operate down there. And they did retain some of the coaching staff, like Robert Gillespie. That's going to help offensively, especially with the running backs. And then just like the pure talent, DeVore has said this week during the scrimmages, we're virtually having no penalties, which was a huge struggle with us the past 4 or 5 seasons under Saban. I mean, and that's positive to hear. And then with Milroe, with his accuracy in camp, I said it all season last year. He really struggled with a lot of these quick release and pre-snap reads, and it got us in a lot of trouble. His legs saved us in a lot of the games. And a lot of our wins were off of raw talent, not so much outplaying the other team, because we really struggled in a lot of games. And, I try to see through that and see through the bias. And I know a lot of Bama fans don't do that, but I try to see things for what they are. And I wasn't super impressed with Milroe last year. Toward the end of the year, he did make a lot of improvement. But DeBoer said he's hitting next level throws now in camp. And I think that's if that'll translate, I really like Alabama as a dark horse. But again, I still think Georgia and Texas have the edge just from the coaching staff standpoint and even the talent standpoint. Georgia is loaded. Texas is loaded. So, but that's kind of where I stand. I think a lot of teams in the SEC are fit the dark horse category, but I don't really have a pretender in the conference.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That's a great breakdown, Blake. Thank you. Trev, what about you, dark horse wise? Just because we're down there, and we'll come back to
dark horse wise for me. I mean, I kind of already hinted at it a little bit, but Tennessee, they're in my not dark horse. Sorry, no, we're doing dark horses. They're not there yet. No, my bad.
Hold on.
They're buried.
Hold on. Rewind. No, dark horse. Blake's right though. I mean, in all honesty, like there's probably, I don't know, 7 different teams that could maybe fit the dark horse category. I personally think that I like Ole Miss as a dark horse, and I like Oklahoma as a dark horse. And I would say that while it's strange for me to say it, Alabama is probably a dark horse just because while there's good reports coming out of the camp, there's just a lot of questions.
Yeah, you got to see
for me on a lot of different avenues. While there's great reports coming from their young wide receiving core and everything like that there's more speed than what was anticipated developing out of the wide receivers and running backs. I like that. I like hearing that for Alabama fans. And for me, trying to pick a dark horse, I mean that's nice being able to say, hey, my dark horse is Alabama. No big deal.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
But yeah, I mean those are some, but there's a ton. Like seriously, LSU could be considered a dark horse, which that's weird to say. Which honestly, I think this season might actually be a season where LSU would be considered actually a dark horse, considering everything that's going on within the SEC right now. And there is a ton of parity with the amount of talent overall in the SEC, which makes it really kind of tough to pinpoint one way or the other on how this is all going to kind of play out.
Yeah, and on top of that, between all these teams maybe being able to knock each other off, you've got to talk about when it all comes down to it. And we'll talk about our conference title selections in a minute. But what are the tiebreakers? What happens if there's a bunch of, teams that are 10-2, 11-1? Like how does that all shake out? The Big Ten's the same way when it comes to tiebreakers. It's a mess.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. Again, these are all just predictions. It's just, hey, what we've seen over our, all of our research, all the stuff that we've done. Even though you Oklahoma fans say we haven't done any, like we've done plenty. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Dark horse for me, I've got Texas A&M. Simply, I like their roster, and I like Connor Wigman at quarterback. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to make them even more dangerous. And I like Elko too. I think maybe his philosophy and his culture will better suit this team. But again, I got to see it. That's why they're not in a contender role to me. No matter how much talent they have, they're kind of that 8 to 9 win range. But if they catch lightning and other stuff happens, okay, they can maybe make the playoff. I mean, if they go to the conference championship. But that's why I've got them in a dark horse role. Outside of that, I've already told you my contenders. Those guys, I think, all could shake each other out and maybe win it. Yeah. So that's why I got it dark horse.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? No, you zero confidence in Texas A&M. I know you got a beef with them from last year, but
all I'm gonna say is
I like Wigman.
You gotta flip and prove it.
Sure, that's why I got them as dark horse. Like, could they do it? Do I think they will?
Do
Not
I think
necessarily,
Elko is
but
going to be good for Texas A&M overall? Yes. Do I think he's going to be having the success that they think he's going to have in year one? Absolutely flipping not.
yeah.
No, not until he starts getting in the type of players that he wants. Don't get me wrong, the transfer portal is going to fix a lot of those holes that he may not know now, but he might find out halfway through the season that he has more holes than Swiss cheese. But
Hey, schedule wise though, I don't
I
really
know.
mind it. I don't know.
I know.
We'll see.
I don't mind. I
Again,
don't
prove it.
mind their
I do
schedule.
agree. I've got to see it to believe it and say they're actual contenders.
Like,
Same
I'm
as why I didn't
hard-pressed to
have
pick
Penn
them
State
for
up
winning
there
in week
and
one, but I'm
the
just saying.
Big Ten. I don't trust James Franklin. That type of shit. So no, I definitely hear you. Pretenders, guys. I want to hear pretenders. Blake, you said you don't really have any. Because I know it sounds that's very derogatory. You guys, oh, you're a pretender. You ain't shit. That's not what
it's
we're
not.
saying. Like you're there, but you're
Yeah.
just not.
My thing is like people. I consider the pretender as somebody that's supposed to contend, but they're overrated, overhyped, and
Yeah.
the rest of the SEC, I just kind of feel meet expectations. Like Florida, not really expecting much out of them. South Carolina,
Nobody's expecting
not-
anything out of Florida. Like,
right.
so they're about to get their
And-
butts handed to them.
Right. So like, I mean, if I had to say one, I would lean like, A&M, Auburn maybe, but again, like they're not really pretenders to me because I'm just expecting, like a 7-8 win season out of them. So
Sure.
Right.
I don't really
see for me, like I know I'm joking. I'm joking pretty hard on some of these teams, but I do mean it when I say that I think that Tennessee and Texas A&M could be pretenders, and I don't mean that necessarily in the fact that I like both of the coaches for the most part at Tennessee and Texas A&M. It's just I think that the hype train for both of these teams is so high all the time in the offseason that most of the time they're going to be in the pretender category for me until they can prove on a consistent basis that you're a 10-win team every season. And until you do that, you're going to kind of be there for me, especially in the SEC when, like we've already talked about, you're 7 or 8 deep as far as teams that could potentially contend talent wise for the SEC championship. Excuse me. And but yeah, that's just kind of where I look at pretenders as not being necessarily joking on them, but the fact of the matter is that you're in the SEC and you have to be consistent. Consistency is key with the SEC. If you can't keep it going every year in, year out, then I'm not going to be picking you for a contender.
No, I mean I think that's fair enough. I know people probably get upset. Well, every year, but some of these, if they're the same coaching staff, all that stuff, you got to see some improvement, I guess, to get that feeling. So I understand
that also plays into the fact that once again, new coach, don't have a whole lot of faith in a year one coach, but it doesn't mean lightning can't strike or but Elko, I think he's a good coach. I thought he put together a really great staff, honestly. But I just first year coaches, I just don't have a ton of faith in them. Even DeBoer at Alabama, not super. I don't have a whole lot of expectations. I do think that they have enough talent to get them through the SEC schedule more so than A&M, in my opinion.
Sure. No, I mean, when you look at talent composite too, I mean, Bama's still right at the top. So, no, I hear what you're saying. I guess for pretenders, for me, I put LSU. I think they're going to have a fine team offensively. Defense, I know they've made some changes. They've rearranged players, and I think they're going to be better than what they were last year. But
Right.
I'm hearing a lot of hype about Nussmeier winning the Heisman, like all this type of stuff online, and I'm not seeing it this season. I do like that Brian Kelly went and got a defensive coordinator from Mizzou. I think that helps a lot, but I'm just I don't know. I've got them in the pretender list. I think they're still gonna have a fine year, but I don't think they're gonna be, at that level. Could that you call them a dark horse, maybe to me, but I threw them in pretender. Just I had one, so I don't know. Guys, let us know what you think on your contenders, pretenders, and dark horses. Tell us, of course, why you think we're wrong. We heard plenty of that when when we talked Oklahoma and a few others. So
Don't shoot, please.
Hey, look, we just call it the way we see it. And if you have insight on why you think your team's better, let us know and let's talk respectfully. Don't be a douchebag. Let's go ahead and talk some conference title, boys. This got tough for me when I was I filled out all the weeks, went through team after team, and I was like, God dang, man, this could be really tight. And mine finished out. I've got Missouri versus UGA. Again, I don't know how the tiebreakers might work, but that's how I've got it is UGA, Missouri, Georgia winning in the conference championship. Schedule really I like for Missouri. What about you guys?
I have literally the exact same thing that you have.
Really?
Missouri, Georgia winning.
All right. Missouri. Okay.
I'm a little shocked myself.
So am I, actually.
I can explain when we do the our 12-team playoff episode.
Yeah.
You'll get
All
to
right. So mine's going to be fairly unpopular, I suppose, except for maybe with Blake. But I got Texas, Alabama.
Okay.
Nice.
I see Georgia dropping more than one game this season. I don't know where, but I think they will.
It's possible.
Well, I will say I had like multiple scenarios. I just felt like with Missouri's schedule, I think ultimately Georgia is going to be the top team in the SEC. But with Missouri's schedule, I see them making the game. And I had a Georgia Texas scenario. I have a Texas Alabama scenario. Ole Miss Texas is a possibility.
Yeah.
But when I start stacking it and looking on like odds, I think the Georgia Missouri game is the most likely scenario. So that's what I even based my bracket off of. So
yeah, same. And we'll talk bracket next week, guys. We're excited about that one. It's tough.
It's
Trevor,
very tough.
Who did you have winning that? Texas, Bama?
Texas.
Gotcha. All right. Hey, like you said, any of these are possible. And like I said, I did the simulator thing where you go through every single game in the regular season. And I've got Mizzou at 11-1, UGA 11-1, Texas. I've got them at 10-2, but their two losses I think might come in the SEC. And now, if one of those shakes out and they lose to Michigan, but say they win one of the two that I said they lost in the SEC play, you could have three teams at 11-1 potentially, and then it comes down to tiebreakers, or even Bama, 11-1. Who knows how it would all
curious
work out.
how
So that's
the
just our idea.
tiebreakers. I'm curious
Have
about
they
the
publicized
tiebreakers.
exactly what the tiebreakers will be yet?
Not that I've seen. I need to look again, but when I was looking, I didn't see anything concrete.
I didn't see anything either for exactly their tiebreak
My
scenarios.
Best guess is like what my concern is when you get these teams that don't have head-to-heads against each other.
Yeah.
And my guess would be they either take like a strength of schedule aspect or margin of victory, something like that.
Probably
would be
strength of schedule, highest ranked, whatever.
How many
So
ranked overall? How many ranked wins do you have as opposed to someone else or whatever?
Or as they love to do it, best losses, quality losses.
I hate that.
Best quality loss.
So yeah, we'll
best
see.
Loss. What's your best loss? Well, shut up. There's no such thing.
It's going to be tough, man, and that's why next week when we talk playoff, our final bracket that we're predicting, it's a mess, man. So. Either way, SEC predictions, there you have it. Blake and I both have Mizzou, UGA, with UGA winning it. And Trevor's got Texas, Bama, with Texas coming away with it. So, guys, let us know what you think. Holler at us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. YouTube especially helps us a lot. Views, shares, all that. You guys, anything else on the SEC before we close out tonight?
Good to go.
Good to go. Hey, thanks for watching.
Remember, football's coming very soon, guys. And Sunday nights we're doing
Sunday.
Sunday. We're going live,
Sunday.
and we're gonna do the recap of the week, and then we'll get out, in the next week, the previews. So we're looking forward to it. I'm glad kickoff's coming up, week 0, really soon. So guys, stay tuned. We got more coming your way very soon. Have a good one.
Later.